Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the MidBeach Neighborhood Association meeting. Today is September 4th, 2024. MBNA represents the interests of condominiums and hotels from 24th Street to 63rd Street. I'm Ana Marie Ferreira de Mello, the president of the MidBeach Neighborhood Association. I'm joined today by our board of directors, our vice president and chair of the Collins North Working Group and the Beachwalk Working Group, Alicia Casanova. Present. Thank you, Alicia. Our treasurer and chair of our Beach and Water Quality Working Group, Oscar Vasquez.
I'll text him.
Oscar is not present at the moment. Our Indian Creek Working Group and a representative on the Transportation, Parking, Facilities, Pedestrian Bicycle Facilities Committee for Miami Beach, Esteban Porcelli.
Yes, present.
Hi, Esteban. Thanks so much for being with us. Randy Hollingworth and our Public Space Chair, Randy.
Randy?
He's there. Thank you, Randy. And Deborah Lake, our General Director.
Hi, here.
Thank you, Deborah. And Jose Flores with the Edition Hotel, our hotel representative on the board. Jose is not present at this time. Is there a motion to call the meeting to order?
Hi.
Okay,
Second.
Seconded by Esteban. And any opposed? None. No discussion. Meeting has officially begun. So welcome everyone to September's meeting. We've got a packed agenda today. We have a featured presentation on the Beachwalk Reforestation project. We're also going to be welcoming our city manager, which is always exciting. We've been very fortunate that the city manager's office has reached out to MBNA and to the associations and to residents requesting meetings and to just kind of get a sense of where everyone is at and what are our needs and what are some of the things that we see from our perspective. So we thank the city manager and their office for being so welcoming and reaching out. We have a meeting that is tentatively scheduled for next month. So if any of you have any comments or after this meeting and like to meet one-on-one before that meeting, please do reach out. We're also going to be chatting a little bit about the landscape project along Indian Creek Drive, the dog park that has received several renderings and a wonderful public-private partnership that's underway, as well as Miami Beach Drive, the Sargassum removal, and Indian Creek's Drive's protected bike lane, as well as the boat show that's coming and so much more. So without further ado, before we dive into that big agenda, I'd like to welcome all of our special guests and elected officials that are here with us today that have taken time out to be here, and many of them have met with us over the summer. And so I'd like to begin with welcoming our mayor, Mayor Miner.
Hey everyone, great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Commissioner Bott. Feel free to unmute. I see that you're there. I know you spoke earlier. And Commissioner Magazine.
Yeah, well, great to be on. Thank you for all you do for the neighborhood.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, I couldn't unmute in time, but thank you. And I always am happy to follow up after Joe.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Bott. Commissioner Suarez.
Hey guys.
Hi, thank you for being here. And
Rosen Gonzalez just joined.
Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez.
Unmute.
Unmute, Kristen.
Unmute.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, now it's okay.
So good to see you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't hear you guys at the beginning. Yeah. Nice to see you guys.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
No, I hope you had a great summer. My aide already told me that the sargassum is causing a big problem, so she is up to date about it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. We're going to mitigate.
Nice. We can't wait to hear what your aide has to say on it. And the Commissioner Fernandez, I think he might have had a conflict today.
Yes, I
Yes,
think he's gonna come in late.
I think he had a conflict.
Yeah, he texted me. He's joining late.
No problem. Thank you, Kevin Pulido, for being with us today and everybody from the city of Miami Beach. I'm excited to see many of our member properties here. Remember, you're welcome to invite, even though there's only one voting member for each property and within the MBNA organization, you are welcome to invite other board members or other residents that might be interested in any one of these topics. If you see something that might be of interest, feel free to invite your team. Okay, so without further ado, City Manager Eric Carpenter.
So the manager is actually meeting with Vice Mayor Fernandez, so he's running a bit behind, but I do want to also mention, I think we have Mayor Stephen Minor on the call as well.
Yes,
You.
he introduced himself first.
So as soon as the Vice Mayor joins with the manager, maybe we could cut back to them. They're wrapping up a meeting right before this.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for the plug, Kevin.
Yeah. Any of our special guests like to say anything before we dive into the agenda? I believe we also have our captain.
Thank you guys. My name is Aaron Soriano.
Thank you, Aaron, for being here and for representing.
I'm here representing
Commissioner
Commissioner Dominguez. She's on her way. Yeah, thank you. She's on her way back, so I appreciate it. I'm here to represent her. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and put my information in the chat. And thank you, MBNA. We miss you guys over the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
I see Captain Madison here.
Hi, Captain Madison.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I'm glad to be back with you.
Yay, we are too. So Captain Madison, since the inception of MBNA, I know we talk about this often, we've been advocating for cameras before the Beachwalk was even built and when it was being designed, etc. We heard that upcoming, there's money in the budget for 24th to 46th, but our district goes up to 63rd. We know that in an awful incident that occurred over the summer, it was terrifying to see, but it was also really useful to have those cameras to be able to prevent those and to be able to document what might have occurred leading up to it and to be able to help prevent or identify those that may be involved in those incidents. So I was just wondering how the rest of Miami Beach or the rest of MidBeach might be able to receive that same protection and what's going on with that? Why are we going into 8 years still making the same request?
I don't know about.
So
Okay.
Captain Madison, and I have an update. Sorry to jump in from also within police. We do have, and I was waiting for today's meeting. My name is Kevin Pulido, Neighborhood Affairs Division Director of the City of Miami Beach. So there is the Beachwalk cameras that are actually proceeding. This week, the city issued an NTP, which is notice to proceed to a contractor to bring them on board. So they're going to start construction. You'll receive an update tomorrow with just some project background on who the contractor is. This is going to be from 43rd to 63rd Street, and it's going to take approximately 4 months from when they start construction, probably anywhere occurring next week or so. So 4 months after that, our cameras will be installed again from 43rd up to 63rd. That's the limits of this project. So
Well, we haven't heard that before. It's great news. So you're saying that, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So you're saying that by our annual meeting, 6 months from now, those cameras will either be installed or under construction.
yeah, exactly. So thank you for adding that cushion because I probably should have added it already. But given that September goes smoothly, knock on wood, and we don't have any hurricanes or storms and there's no unforeseen conditions, I think by the annual meeting is fair estimate to say we'll have cameras.
Great. And then the other ones are still on track. The rest of MidBeach is still on track to have.
So 43rd to 63rd will complete MidBeach. Then there's going to be another project next year that's going to take the cameras from 63rd into North Beach. So that's going to be a separate project.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions about that from any of our members? Along the safety items, what about bollards? Can folks still drive onto the beach walk all the way through, or is there bollards or other safety protections that are what's going on with that item?
So as part of this project, the cameras, it's only going to be cameras. For security bollards, that's a separate project. We could look into see if there's any progress on that front. Nothing off the top of my head right now.
Great. Go ahead.
I can just jump in and add one thing. Brad Kane from Public Works. I know as part of some of the improvements we made in the area, that our streets team, we've installed bollards on 24th and 29th on Miami Beach Drive to prevent some of the vehicular traffic issues. So some of that has already been done, just obviously to help with some of the immediate issues.
Thank you so much, Brad Kane. So that is the portion you're just describing is parallel to the beach walk, and it's the Miami Beach Drive for everyone.
Yes.
But the one that we're speaking to is actually on the beach walk right now. So because we don't have street ends, if anybody gets in there, you just go straight. And we have a very large, MidBeach has a very large beach walk. And so vehicles, we see it, vehicles go up and down them every day. We just want to make sure the wrong ones don't get in there. Any other comments along those?
Yeah, I had one quick comment, Anna Marie.
Hi, Oscar.
This is Oscar Vasquez. Yeah, just one thought as a take back on that. Probably the area where we see vehicles entering the beach walk from time to time is in between the Triton Towers and the Faena. That area seems to be used for a lot of concession entry and exit, which is probably allowable traffic. But there used to exist removable bollards there. I'm not sure if they were powered bollards or just removable bollards, but now those have been removed. So the city, as was previously mentioned, has put in a lot of work on preventing entry into Miami Beach Drive, but that area still remains. Actually, it's a very confusing area where you go into a little cul-de-sac, and if you're a tourist or something, you could easily enter into the beach walk. So if you could take a look at that, I can certainly send some pictures if you're interested, but it's pretty obvious when you go by there, that's a troublesome entry point.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could send them to my email, Oscar, I'd appreciate that. And we'd be more than happy to take a look at that as well.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Thank you for that note, Oscar. Any other comments from our board members on safety items?
I'm very excited about the news with the cameras. That's something I've been waiting for many years, and you surprised us with this one, Kevin. Thank God it's a pleasant surprise.
Any members have any comments? Okay, thank you so much. We're going to close that item and move on to the next one. So our landscaping and fence installment, man. So when that generator was first being designed, it was designed for Indian Creek Drive's like walking path, where we were going to have this massive generator, another massive structure on Indian Creek Drive in that walking path that we so much have advocated to have a continuous one from 24th to 41st. So in design, very early in this process, I actually remember Mayor Minor, I think it was his first day as a commissioner, came out and did a site visit with us. And we walked in and we shared how much we would love for this to be in the public parking lot. And then we went to all the boards and we shared how much we wanted to have natural vegetation to cover it. And then we heard that there were individuals experiencing homelessness and there was some illicit activity that folks were concerned about. So this is somewhat of a safety, and then we'll transition into public space issue. And this is a public space issue, but a little bit of public safety as well. And so all of a sudden it became bare, and we received many complaints and many upset residents and hotel owners asking and questioning, why would the city make such a decision? Why would they remove all this beautiful vegetation? What happened to all those hours, time, and resources of advocacy that went in to trying to design this perfect location? And then we get a big metal fence, which is very much different than the feeling and the branding that we want for our neighborhood. So we were encouraged to hear that the city has an update on this, and maybe some rationale or something that could help us communicate why these decisions were made by the city.
I
Kevin?
believe Kevin has some good news here too. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, so I'm not sure if I'm able to share my screen. It says it's disabled, but we do have, if you could maybe
ahead.
make me a co-host. No, it still says host disabled. But as you work through that, so really, like you stated, there were some complaints of really coming from the neighborhood to police. And I know Hazy and Captain Madison are on, where there was individuals experiencing homelessness that were going into this area. And like you showed, it was an unsecured area with a lot of lush landscaping. So what Public Works had done, and I think if you could see my screen, you should see a picture of the generator with the landscaping removed and the new white fence. Is that right?
We're
Everybody
seeing,
sees
we're
that?
seeing we're seeing our website. We're not seeing yours. Are you
Okay,
able
let's
to
try
share?
one more time. How about now?
There.
And
Mhm.
There we go.
Before-
Okay, so
Sorry, before you go on, just so that we better understand, we were caught by surprise, which I don't understand. We spent like dozens of hours of our time advocating, showing up to every single meeting, sending letters of support. We had dozens of people out there. Yet a few years later, something happens and you just take out all of the plants and nobody reaches out to the association. We just have a bunch of upset residents making comments and we have to put it on our next agenda, which is far out, et cetera. What can we do to better improve the communication between the city and ourselves? I mean, we try our best to stay in touch, but a decision like this for the city to come in and tear up a bunch of lands, you know, that it seemed kind of odd to not even know it was going to happen and to have to be reactive. What can we do to help, you know, communicate with all of our members, communicate with all of the properties, especially those that we know based on our records, who was engaged and who was involved? And it just really feels like you know, it's discouraging, and that's what breaks the trust in the community. And that's why folks have a hard time being engaged and staying engaged in these types of projects, because they feel that when they do voice their what they think might be best for the community, you know, the city makes decisions without informing. And so there's just this feeling, which if they knew that there's a reason why and what the reason why is behind it, then maybe that they won't have that perception, and we also won't get all those angry emails and text messages. But can you just take a step back and just let me know, or tell us, all of us as members, what do we need to do as an association to better be able to communicate and be in touch with the city about issues such as these?
definitely. I think, well, yeah, definitely to take a step back. What we really do pride our relationship with your organization and MBNA. So, you know, I think a portion of that it falls really on me and on our team, where in the sense that what we'll do is on our side, we're going to have to really ensure that whenever there's anything occurring in your area, ensure that there's updates available. I think really in good faith, we've received concerns from neighbors. So in an effort to address the concerns as quickly as possible and make sure, you know, that this doesn't become, you know, worse, I think the team was looking for an opportunity kind of for a quick win, but also to assist. And we heard loud and clear from, you know, some of the same neighbors that had concerns about homelessness in the community, also had concerns of now this generator has been exposed. So what our team had done is, like you mentioned, this was part of the HPB order, which is the Historic Preservation Board. So the new fence has been erected really to combat those public safety concerns that came from the neighbors. So what they're going to do now to work with SEPTED is to create this 24 to 30 inch surveillance window so a police officer can drive by and, you know, hopefully this is never going to be an issue, but you would have, you know, if you do see an individual either sleeping or hanging out in that area, police officers can now see that. And if they need to remove anybody, they'll be able to do that.
Kevin, I just saw this picture for the first time. Are you insinuating that this is going to be an area where people and dogs can hang out in front of a generator?
No, exactly. No, this is not, this is going to be an enclosed fence. It's an enclosed fence. It's going to be locked in the event that somebody, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
In the event that somebody does access that fence, you'll have this 24-inch surveillance window where police can now see. So this is just to depict that if somebody was hiding in the bushes, hiding behind the fence, broke into that area, you'll be able to see them with this SEPTED, different from what it was in the images that you showed, that it was just fully lush and you couldn't see through.
Okay, so let me just throw something out there. Doesn't it make more sense to put this fence, right? Let me share my screen now with you. To put this fence and then put the landscaping outside the fence. So let's say a homeless they have to jump the fence, but you don't see the fence. In the presentation you just offered us, we still see this white, it's not even green, which wouldn't less visible, this white fence. Instead of putting it 2 feet back, move it 2 feet back, put foliage in front of the fence, around the fence. Now you're covering the fence and the generator, but you're still blocking it so nobody can go in there and live or sleep or do whatever they were doing. So doesn't that make more sense than just putting the foliage inside, put it outside?
And Alicia, thank you so much for that comment. I'm also going to, if we can also give a moment to our public space chair, Randy Hollingworth. I believe you also had a comment on this item.
Yeah, thank you, Anna Marie. The fence where it's located is just not acceptable. This is totally contrary to the concept of how Miami Beach in this area works. No one has fences on the backs of sidewalks with nothing in front of them. Maybe in the residential area, but even if you go over there, there are hedges in front of fences. There's landscaping. They plant vines on the fences. This is going to look terrible forever. Planting grass and landscaping behind this fence makes no sense from a maintenance point of view. You're going to have to go in there and cut the grass, which people don't appreciate nor need to be there. The fence needs to be moved at least 3 to 4 feet off the sidewalk, and I've been down there. It's totally, the ability to do that is very easy. And then as Alicia said, place a hedge in front of the fence, let it grow to 6 feet if you don't want it to be any higher. But this just doesn't make sense to put an elaborate landscaping behind a 6-foot white fence sitting on the back of the sidewalk. It is totally out of character with the neighborhood. And just look at the rest of the street, which is a parking lot, has a hedge around it. The parking lot looks better than the this generator building will, or the pump station. So
thank you so much, Randy. Randy, thank you so much for that comment. I do want to
common sense, Kevin. Yeah.
Before we continue with more comments, Kevin, can you tell us where you are in the process? Again, I don't know that we've communicated well on knowing the picture you just showed. If you could share your screen again, where are we in that? Where is this already gone to commission? This has already been approved. There's already more money and funding going towards the implementation of this, or is this, is this a done deal? Because we don't, and that's why we want to communicate. We don't want to come in with these suggestions and in the 11th hour.
No, and we completely understand and we appreciate that. I think it's safe to say that this is something we're happy to look into, and we hear these concerns about the fence. I'll make sure to forward this so you have these renderings as well, and see what opportunities we have. I don't want to speak for any of our departments, but we could explore ways to maybe offset the fence a little bit and ensure that there's the police SEPTED security requirements while also securing the site. So I think that's something that we could commit to and see how to better address.
Thank you. So it sounds like we're not too late. And so Randy, any comments on closing this item? There's something else in public space, but I do want to move back to the city manager before we go on and speak about it. Any final or closing remarks from the Public Space Committee?
Yeah, I think that, the SEPTED clearly is very important. Providing the 6-foot fence is a major effort in that way of keeping people out of that area. I think the city could actually spend less money on landscaping if you don't landscape behind the fence like is shown in that rendering. The landscaping could be simply in the area around between the fence and the sidewalk. You've got the palms already behind the fence, which appears, I assume you're going to keep. So placing a fence here with a hedge in front of it, the city will save considerable money and not have to maintain all that landscaping inside. So it just makes so much more sense to do an exterior landscaping and not an interior landscaping.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Randy, for that. And I tried to put Ted quickly in the chat. It just wasn't able to do it. But just so everyone knows that we're referring to the crime prevention through environmental design approach to be implemented, but also to be in context with our branding and in what the community, is what MidBeach feels like. We want people to know they're in MidBeach, and this fence really just doesn't, especially being so close to that sidewalk, really, it doesn't do what we're trying to do in this corridor. But thank you. So this kind of goes to, I heard that the city manager is here with us, or at least somebody from his office is here with us today.
He's here, and so is Commissioner Fernandez. They both joined.
Wonderful. And I know they both were at a meeting, and so I appreciate them both running over. Is Commissioner Fernandez? Hello? Or someone from your office? Kara, I think, is here.
Hi there. How are you? It's good to see you.
Hi. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Yes.
And
thank you. And thank you for your time earlier this month. I had the pleasure of meeting with you and Oscar and Alicia and a number of your neighbors on projects that we continue collaborating on. But I'm excited that you're having our fabulous new city manager here, who has been responsive and attentive to so many needs. So thank you for hosting him today.
Thank you. And Manager Carpenter, you're definitely not new to MBNA. I know we've hosted you many, many times, just not in this capacity. When a moment ago, just before you joined, we were talking about how we could better improve our communication on projects. How do we make our relationship between associations and the city a little more seamless and more productive, less criticism and more constructive towards, we all have the same, I think, mission. We're all on the same team. We all love Miami Beach, and we all want what's best for our community. And so how do we do that in a productive way? And how do we find out about things before they're designed or before they're implemented? And how do we communicate more effectively? How do we put more ownership on the associations to have better representation of those that they might have interest? So in our area would be the hotels, the businesses, and the condominiums. How do we have a bigger reach? How do we really engage and represent not just a few loud voices, but really truly the interest of these properties? And what can we do to work with you? So what are your thoughts on that? And as kind of a veteran in management and administration, now that you're at the head of this, what are you thinking? What will it be like during your tenure?
So first and foremost, thank you for having me, Anna Marie. It's very nice to see you again. I actually was surprised this was a Zoom meeting only. I thought we were going to be getting together in person, but I'll look forward to that hopefully in the not too distant future. I think that you're already doing it, the answer to your question. And the way that you're doing it is staying engaged, being involved when the city comes forward with a project or with a proposal. You guys are hearing it at the front end. Kevin is very engaged with you all. You know how to find him. He knows how to find me and all of the departments that are working on these particular projects. David is my assistant city manager, who is over CIP and Public Works and all of these projects. And you obviously are very familiar with David. And I think that the reality is that your level of engagement and your involvement in the process is something that it kind of feeds on itself. Because you've been so involved in the past, everyone here at the city knows that we need to engage with MBNA before we move forward with anything of any substance out there. I don't know what happened with this particular fence. I kind of jumped onto this conversation late, but this is a learning opportunity for the next group of project managers that might be learning that they need to engage with the public.
Thank you so much. And is there anything that a couple of city managers ago, there was a pilot of sorts where the leaders of associations were going to meet quarterly. We ended up only ever meeting once. And I believe you, I know you were in the city already, obviously you've been here for a while, but do you think that that would be useful? Is there any kind of systems changes or anything that we can expect for for those members that are on to know that these channels of communication, and we don't want to be alone. There's North Beach, there's South Beach, there's, you know, Flamingo, there's the rest of it. We're just the east, very dense area that didn't have any representation 8 years ago. And so we're trying to have that representation, but how, you know, is there a more concerted effort to, for these associations to have a communication with you, or will you be doing what you already do, which is attend our meetings, meet with us, have outreach, and of course, the city staff have been wonderful and very welcoming to MBNA. Is that the approach that will continue doing business as it's being done, or will there be any changes?
So we're going to try to continue doing the things that we already do well. Kevin is exceptional from my perspective at engaging with the public, at making sure that you all have a clearinghouse of information. He works with his, you know, North Mid and South Beach, you know, point people to give you a little bit more day-to-day interaction. And I would like to be more involved, so I'm going to be reinstituting the prior quarterly meetings with, you know, the leadership of neighborhood associations from across the city. It's something that I think is well worthwhile and also gives opportunities for two-way communication. You know, I am not in any way, shape, or form avoiding contact with anybody at any time. I think most people have my cell phone number. If they don't have it, it's 305-335-1269. That's my cell phone. That's on 24/7. Anna Marie, you have my number. If you need it at any point, reach out. Obviously, we need to be reaching out to you when there's something that we're going to be doing that's going to be impacting you. But please reach out to us if there's something that you see that you don't like, or you're not sure what's happening. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we want to have that open and collaborative relationship.
Thank you so much. Is there any, I'm sorry to already start with questions. I don't even think I allowed a proper introduction. Is there anything that you'd want to share with us more about your administration, more about your vision, more about what you would like to see done differently, or things that will be within your legacy and during your tenure as a city manager?
So I am hopeful that at the end of whatever tenure I may have as a city manager, people feel that I left the place better than I found it. My goal is to bring forward a lot of managerial experience. I am a Franklin Covey disciple. I am a big believer in focusing on the big rocks and making sure that we are moving the needle on things that are really going to be important for the long-term benefit of the city. And I am going to ask each of the department heads and each of the assistant city managers to help quantify what success looks like in their organizations based on the vision and values of our commission. If our commission is saying this is what's most important, then we're going to quantify how we move the needle on those things, and we're going to steer the ship in that direction. And it's going to be my job to make sure that everybody is rowing all in the same direction.
Well, we certainly look forward to supporting you. I did not have your phone number before, but don't worry, it's saved now, as well as everyone else on our board and all of the members here. So, but we do acknowledge, I don't know, obviously just kidding, but we do really appreciate your approach and your openness. And I think you mentioned Franklin Covey, maybe. But if I remember, so it is a very structured approach, and the methodologies are very, sometimes not as flexible. And so hopefully I know that you know our community, you've been here so long and you have a real pulse on it. And so always keeping that in mind and allowing for that flexibility and the light of with that it makes Miami Beach what it is. It makes us love to live here and work here and do business here. Still be able to operate within those structures. So I can't wait to see your efficiency and to see this become even a more incredible home. Any comments from our board of directors before we move on to our next agenda item?
We're looking forward to meeting with you. I think Kevin scheduled the meeting with you already for October, so we're definitely looking forward to that. I know some commissioners have been meeting with the executive board already. We started with Alex Fernandez, and I know Suarez and Magazine also, and so we think that's also a great place. It's hard to coordinate a meeting, but when we do, it's so valuable. And David Martinez was present, and I think that's what it's all about, teamwork. Without teamwork, we won't get anywhere. It takes a village.
Thank you, Alicia. Any other comments?
Welcome, Eric. So good to see you in this role. Very exciting. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Anyone else? Any other comments? Again, we know how busy you are. We know how busy all of you are. And we thank you so much for being with us. So we'll be in touch. I'll be texting you later today.
Oh, boy.
Absolutely.
Just kidding. Okay, on to our next. Did somebody post a chat from Seacoast? Franklin Cove. Is it Delgado? Did you have a comment? Feel free to speak up. Unmute, speak up.
Yes, no, I was interested in the name. It sounded like interesting, so I just wanted to follow up with that.
Yes.
Just what's the last name?
Cove.
I'm sorry, friend.
Corvée.
Okay.
The way
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And we'll be happy to share that in our newsletter. So in our agendas that you received, you'll also see some newsletter items, and that's just because we can't get to all the items. The way MBNA is structured is that we have an executive board that meets once a week for 30 minutes, and we're very focused on very specific items during that 30-minute period. We have a chat, we have a member chat. If you're not on our chat, please join it. We have a list for our newsletters, and we try to keep everyone engaged. I, as the president, am not on any working group. Each one of our other board members does lead or chair or participate actively in the working group. And so those working groups is really where the magic happens. It's where they're reaching out to cities, staff members, working on projects, thinking through things, really devoting the time to be intentional with our feedback and our approach from an association standpoint of how we can try to make that project more reflective of our community's needs and our community's desires. And so if you're interested in participating in any of these working groups, please do reach out. Also note that we just aren't able to, in this short period of time, cover all of the items that the groups are working on. But our website, which Alicia Casanova has been volunteering to manage since its inception, midbeach.net, has every single one of our projects that we're working on. And so if you ever want to know our position, what we would like to see, where we'd like to go, and et cetera. And every one of our elected officials, and all of our elected officials have been very responsive on meetings. It's just been more of a limitation on the executive board to be able to schedule and to see everyone within a short period of time. But every one of our commissioners, you have to know that they are championing something in your community. And so if you want to know what is your commissioner doing for you, and what is the commissioner, although they do stuff for all of us citywide, what are we doing? I always like to know, at least when I go to the ballot, I go to vote, I want to know what my elected officials are doing for MidBeach, because it was way too long that we've been ignored, and and you see it even today when we weren't represented on certain oversight committees, projects were cut in our area, and budgets. And if you look at each budget, so how many items do we come back every year asking for the same thing? Those cameras, it's been 8 years before they even designed, before oversight committees were even created. We have been advocating for that. So I'm glad to see it's going to happen before our annual meeting. And in April, Manager Carpenter, we will see each other in person. That is our only in-person meeting. We encourage everybody to come. There's wonderful refreshments and cocktail hour, and we do a great presentation afterwards. It's a nice celebration, but we are hoping to celebrate that day, the cameras and more. So to move on for our other items before we get to our featured presentation, I want to take a second and bring back the Public Space Committee. Randy, please join us. And we're going to talk about the 36th Street dog park. This was a concept that was a little controversial. Not everybody was into having a dog park, especially there's these two unbelievable developments that MBNA is very much to support on either side of these parking lots, but unfortunately they're not in use properties right now. They're either in permitting or construction or building. We don't even know. I have no idea. And we have people here that could probably tell us much more about where they are in the process. But we have this public space that has really become a hotspot for individuals experiencing homelessness. And it's also become a hotspot for residents coming off of Caribbean, Mosaic, right? All these other properties that are walking their dogs every day, and they're stopping here and they're using it as almost like an informal dog park. So how do we create, again, a public space that's within the branding of our city, but still is able to meet those needs of the residents while engaging in this kind of like 5-star, beautiful condominium hotel concept that is being promoted? So Randy, walk us through who are the partners, who paid for these renderings, what has been the reception of the city, and what is our stance as an organization?
Yeah, the two adjacent properties, the one to the south and both the north, have gone together, and they hired a local landscape architectural firm to come up with a concept. And it shows the entire parking lot right out to Collins, all the way to the Beachwalk, because they want to also enhance the parking lot adjacent to this new park. Enya is the landscape architectural group doing the design. They provided us with an initial concept. We actually met them on site first, talked about what the opportunities were. It's a beautiful space. It has a great opportunity on the beach. And their desire was to provide something for the community, but provide something that would enhance the area. And we talked about, you know, dog parks can have a negative connotation. They're not always the best neighbor to residential areas and things like that. So we talked about making a space that was dog friendly, which is a challenge because, you know, you have children playing and dogs and that conflict. So they developed a concept which really didn't define the dog park at all. It was sort of just an open space with a place to get the bags, doggy bags, things like that. So we had made some comments on their plan. They very recently, just a couple of days ago, came back with a new plan, which I think is dramatically improved. They've actually created a fenced dog area that's very well landscaped in the space. But in addition, they have a playground, they have a workout area, they have a sculpture installation, a very attractive landscaping, which you can see here in this drawing right here on the right is the actual park space. So you have a walkway along the east side of the parking lot going north-south. You then have the restrooms for the beach at the bottom of the site, which are the restrooms serving the beach and people leaving the parking lot to go to the beach. Directly behind that is the oval. It's a dog park area, which will actually have a fence and gates so that people can take their dogs in there and let them off the leash. And then above that, you have a really a very attractive area for a playground, an exercise area, art installation that focuses on the parking lot and access to the beach. So it's really well landscaped. It'll be a very attractive amenity for the neighborhood and people using the beach walk, and provides an area for dogs. And it's dog friendly in the fact that there is a dog park in the park, so that it serves a lot of different uses without eliminating one over the other.
Thank you, Randy. Any comments or questions?
So what is the next step for this? Does city approval? Where does this go?
Well, I think they're looking at how to get this built, who pays for it. I'm sure they would love to have city contributions.
Didn't the city have 164,000 earmarked for this, but they had said it was going to mimic the Allison Park one, which was just those big black fences. And we thought that was way too much money to pay for big black fences. And two, it just didn't go at all with what we wanted in the community. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody here is from Commissioner Magazine's office, but I thought that the finance, I I didn't know, I didn't think that that was removed. I mean, I was anticipating that was in the budget. I don't know if anybody else can answer that.
Yes, off the top of my head, I do know that this was a line item that was presented in the budget when we went through the preliminary project back in June. It's been my understanding, kind of along the lines of what you were talking about. One of the applicants for a project was almost looking to do a P3 public-private partnership in helping construct the dog park. Let me reach out. I'll do so in the next day or two to see where that stands.
Thank you so much. But I think
Yep.
that, 160,000 is a huge amount of money, and we'll at least get it going and started. And if it is a P3, then that would be even better, right?
Yep, absolutely. I'll personally reach out to you by the end of the week.
Thank you, Commissioner.
That is posted on our public spaces page on the website. So if you need to refer it for anything that the city could use it for, because honestly, it's beautiful. It's a big addition to that area. So we are very supportive.
Ana Maria, this is Esteban. It's very important to know that it's a planning by FPL installation of EV chargers in this parking lot. Don't forget, this is going to take some space and some area dedicated only for the EV charger by FPL.
Esteban, wouldn't that be within the, like in the concrete area, or is it in the park part of it?
In the parking lot, they're going to get some areas to install EV chargers. This means it's necessary to put a transformer and necessary to put a dispensers and special parking lot, special site for the EV. This is
that could be here, Esteban, right? In some area around here, nothing to do
with
the park.
Some area around there, but must be taken in consideration because FPL is working for the last 6 months. Yesterday, I was talking with the guys at the outdoor show, and they are working and together with the city to approve. And this is going to be an important part of the redesign of the parking lot.
They can charge their cars while they walk their dogs and play with their children.
Exactly. Or you go to the beach and then leave the car.
Exactly.
There.
I know that we've been asking for chargers for a while throughout MidBeach, so it's great to see that that's still progressing and it's still moving in that direction. We have a couple of more items before we get to our featured presentation, and I want to make sure we get there in the next within the next 10 minutes. So we're going to move on if we don't have any other closing remarks or comments on this.
Good.
Okay, so building department, are they with us today? We had turtle lighting. Commissioner Suarez had talked about turtle lighting. Oh, actually, before I get to that, I wanted to quickly mention, anybody remember the boat show? Everybody raise their hand. Oh, there's mixed feelings. I see emojis where there's like, oh, and then there's like, woo, and then so the boat show this time is coming to us just at a much smaller scale. It's still going to be very high end. It's going to be nicer than we probably have ever seen before. That's what they've proposed. There's only 4 properties that are really impacted by that, and that's Eden Rock, Fontainebleau, the Waterfields that own the dock in front of Mimosa, and the Diamonds. And it's the footprint of it is manageable. And Commissioner Suarez had reached out to us immediately when they came to him with a proposal about this. I mean, immediately in the sense of like in the middle of the meeting, like in the middle of the day, all of us were on this call and speaking to them. And so it was nice because we were able to engage our properties early on. So we already know that 3 of the 4 have definitely met with them, are in support of a preliminary agreement, and they are trying to make sure the most important thing for our community is that the lanes aren't blocked along Collins Avenue, that there's not horrible backup traffic, that shuttles are being coordinated. We're suggesting on the east side so that folks are walking across, but they're not blocking, there's not temporary. The freight, I love the idea of unloading on the swale, but I'm kind of concerned about our sidewalks and some of our public infrastructure will happen to it as we get freight up there. So we're still thinking, but the timing of it, the bridge openings for this, the coordination has been so thoughtful and so intentional from a city leadership to the city staff to the vendor and working with the community. It's been a really just a nice process, a real breath of fresh air compared to previous experiences, and we'll let you know more about that. We're going to have it in the newsletter, and we'll let you know more. But another one that Commissioner Suarez has been leading is the turtle lights. And one day we were out there until midnight, and I just joined, and I know Oscar was there and other board members and many of the properties. And one thing that came to our attention was not only that we're doing an inventory, that all of us need to do a better job of protecting these turtles. And I think MidBeach has stepped up, and we're doing that, hotels and condominiums alike. It's really just building awareness of what we need to improve. But the 40 years recertification, which I think now is down to 30, or someone had mentioned, Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez had also mentioned that she was looking to provide discount permit fees for condominium recertifications up to 50%. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that over the coming weeks, and we'll make sure to communicate it and probably have a feature on that. That would be great to focus on that. I do see Danny Ray is here from Commissioner Higgins' office, District 5 from the county. The county's workshops have been great. We've had MBNA members join them and share with us more information. Maybe we can make that a featured item for October's meeting. But what we have been seeing is that as folks go through this process, which has been somewhat painful for some of our condominiums, that there was some type of a conflict. And what we received from the city, even with the new code and court ordinance, that there was no conflict. And so again, you know, they're saying that if the 40-year recertification is really focused on electricity and safety and looking at structures, by the way, I've never been a board member of a condominium, so please feel free to correct me, but what I've heard—
30 years, not 40, 30 years now.
30 now. That what I've heard and what I've understood is that really focuses on electricity and structure and just making sure it's safe. But sometimes that means upping our lighting and making it more visible, our pool lighting, our deck lighting, our, you know, what the building is emitting. And yet during turtle season, we want those months of the year for there to be dim, for there to be covers on the lights, for there to be kind of this red glow to it, for it to be safer, so we don't disorient the animals and the turtles, and they're able to get back in and or do their nesting thing. Not environmentalist either, so I apologize. I may have missed some of that, but there is a little bit of conflict of what we're hearing, and it kind of it makes sense to me when I'm hearing the recertification, just common sense. So if somebody could technically explain to us why it doesn't make sense and how there's not a conflict, we'd appreciate it.
And Anna Marie, if I could just add one more thought on this that may allow the group to better comment on, is there were a number of properties between 23rd and 26th this year that actually last year were cited by the city or the pool inspection department. I'm not sure if that's city or state, but the pool inspection, that the pool had to close at sunset because of poor lighting. And of course, you know, all of our pools open well after sunset. And when we upgraded the pool lighting, and now I'm particularly speaking about Club Atlantis, to meet the required criteria, was when the inspector that was looking out for the excessive lighting for turtles came in and said that the lighting was excessive. Additionally, during the 40-year inspections, they go out there and they measure the lumens in order to make sure that it's safe for walking and pedestrians. And the recommendations that come with that often conflict with those that are being asked for on the turtle preservation side. So just a couple of thoughts of some specific examples that I've kind of been closely involved with and worked through.
Thank you for that comment, Oscar. Kevin, I've seen you unmute a few times and I keep on muting you. Is that because you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to just tee this up and just do a friendly reminder. Yesterday, if anyone missed it, we had the meeting for the Sea Turtle Protection Amendment Ordinance. And then we also have, I believe Narinder is still on the call. He's our Deputy Director in the Building Department. So I was going to ask Narinder if you could help us walk us through some of the questions we just heard in respect to the lighting. And I know yesterday on the call, we also had some questions about lighting, and you helped us walk through some of those. Narinder?
Yes, hi, this is Narinder Singh. I'm with the building department. Yeah, the way it works is that we require when recertification, an engineer goes to the job site. An engineer evaluates the structural integrity and also the electrical safety of the building. And the engineer looks at it, makes sure it is safe. And sometimes the existing lighting, if it's adequate, you don't need to add any additional lighting if the existing conditions are safe. So now where they will require additional lighting or any repairs before the building can be certified, that's when you will get permits. And those permits will be subject to the new ordinance we are having with the cities, with the turtle lighting ordinance that recently they are working on. Amy is working with that. And as far for the
We had seen a draft and I think that there was notes on it on our website.
right.
And we're very much in support of the new ordinance and applaud the departments.
Right.
Did anybody ask about the specific, if there was any conflict with recertification yesterday?
So that question did come up, and I see Amy, looks like you've turned on your camera. And maybe you could also walk us through in respect when it comes into recertification.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'd be happy to. I do think Narinder should be commenting on that part specifically, but just to note, one of the key components of the updated ordinance is to make sure that when buildings are coming through any permitting process, that they are choosing lights that are already sea turtle friendly, so that they're low, that they're long, that they're shielded, so that they never have issues with, code compliance, and they can be really comfortable that they're sea turtle compliant. Right now, what the code says is, unless you're doing work that's more than 50% value of the property, that significant number, that you don't have to actually do sea turtle lighting. So the code really focuses on, as you do work, to make sure to include the sea turtle components. But I think Narinder is the one really that comments on the requirements for the 40-year recertification.
Yes. For the recertification, there is no requirement of a turtle-friendly lighting. So if the existing lighting is sufficient, there is no need to upgrade the lighting. So only when they need to get the permits, and that's when the new ordinance that Amy Knowles talked about, when that goes in effect. So any new permits will need to comply with those turtle safe lighting.
I guess the perception is that when you do recertification, that there's some electricity implications in that to meet current safety standards that have maybe evolved over time since the building was built or over the last 30 years, that they would need to update or upgrade their lighting. And that upgrade of lighting, if I'm hearing correctly, what Ms. Knowles is saying is that hopefully the lighting is already turtle friendly, or sea friendly, turtle friendly. And so they won't have to update. But I think the concern is that there's isn't the recertification process from a state, in that there are certain certifications or requirements for electricity that inherently will require these properties to update and upgrade their electricity. And so making that, you would have to either put so many more features in to make it both sea turtle and meet that, or is that not what you're seeing? Is that not what you're hearing? Or is that not true? I don't know.
The requirement what we enforce is the Miami-Dade County based on Chapter 811F. That's the section from Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
That's what we enforce here. Now, after the Champlain Tower, we know the state had mandated certain requirements for it. But as far as and all those are included in the Miami-Dade County Chapter 8. So they have everything they are doing. The forms that we use for recertification for Miami Beach, they are exactly the same from the Miami-Dade County, except we got our own logo on there, City of Miami Beach. So the requirements are same throughout the city, but here, because we are oceanfront and we have the sea turtle issues, so those things are coming up. That's where we are having local ordinance that Amy talked about it. Once that goes in effect, so any new lighting that they will be proposing that will have to meet the sea turtle requirements. But currently, the past ordinance they had was only if the building has done work that was substantial, more than 50% the value of a building, that's when it kicked in for those lighting. which 99.9% of the time wouldn't meet that requirement. Just upgrading the lights won't cost base to 50% of the value of the building.
Okay, so I think, yes.
I just had a quick question. Did I understand you correctly that, this is Oscar, by the way, that if the building did not have a requirement to upgrade their lighting and request a permit, their current lighting was grandfathered?
That's where the building building department doesn't get involved in that, but I believe code compliance is has some kind of, I don't know if Amy knows about it or if somebody here from the code. They are giving friendly reminders to people to work with the lighting and try to make it more, turtle friendly. So I know they are looking for a voluntary compliance. They're not giving any fines as far as I know, but they are looking for voluntary compliance. They are educating the public to change the light bulb or, do certain things. So it doesn't disturb the turtles.
Yeah, so I think that answers the question. And look, we are very supportive. MBNA is extremely supportive of turtle lighting. I think we're actually a little bit lax compared to other communities that I've been to, Vero Beach and Fort Pierce. The concern we had and still have somewhat is that it didn't come across as a friendly reminder or a friendly gesture to the property owners. They were under the impression that this was a must-do compliant item, and if they didn't do them within X number of days, they were going to be cited. And they really did a lot of crazy things. I mean, the things that are going on out there where they're putting plastic covers over the lights, and in our property, they removed several $1,000s of lighting and now are putting them back on because the people were having stumbling issues. So I think that's where the breakup in communication was. And I think that's where Anna Marie is leading to, that there appears or feels to be a disconnect between the required code for our buildings and what we're trying to move along for a more turtle-friendly environment.
I couldn't have said it better, Oscar, and that's exactly what's happening. I also don't feel that I'm making a lot of headway today, and I know our time is very limited. And so I'm going to document what we've talked about again today. I'm going to maybe review the webinar from yesterday. I'm also going to do a little bit of field work and just ask more of our members that are going through this process for them to share with me very specific testimonials. And because Commissioner Rosenthal is going to be talking about the condominiums that are built before 1985 and how they could potentially qualify for that 50% reduction in the recertification process, and the county is going to be discussing some of their work at our October meeting, we're going to move this item to that meeting to continue the discussion, if that's okay with everyone. Okay.
I would like to have one question.
Go ahead, Joe.
My name is Joe Lazovic. I'm from Mason Grande, and we are going through a huge 50-year recertification, $33 million, and we are building new pool. And we have a huge pool deck in the back facing the beach. And we were told that we need much more lighting around the pool and also egress lighting to exit lights. And pool deck is 2 floors from the back of the building. And that would, if we do all the lighting they say, that would impact definitely the turtle lighting. And this is what really we were told, that we need this lighting and we don't have no choice.
You see how fast I do my field work? It's like 2 seconds, and Joe from Mason Grande is already sharing with us. So that's the kind of stuff we're hearing from. I don't know if Narinder, if you want to respond to that, or Amy. I mean,
yes.
This is why I hear what you're saying, but it's just, I'm still not feeling comfortable. I don't think it's not what we're experiencing on the ground.
Any new lighting they're gonna do, it should be turtle friendly. Our staff can look at it. Will also share the plans with the environmental team. They will make sure the lighting is proper. So if you are applying for permits, have you already applied for permit or you are going to apply for permit, Joe?
We are working with a pool deck designer, architect. And but what I was told, these are the requirements from fire department, and really this is the egress for an emergency of the back of the building, and that area must meet the candle foot of the lighting.
So the minimum means of.
Correct.
Okay, we're gonna hear more. Narinder, I think you froze. Are you there?
Hello? No, I'm here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to respond to that? I need to close this item. Would you like to respond or?
My response is apply for permit and we will review it to make sure it's turtle friendly lighting.
Okay.
We will share the plans with Amy's team as well.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything new. I mean, it sounds like everything that we've heard in the past. And I guess we'll just continue to try to communicate and I don't have a good response for everyone right now. So in October, let's revisit this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And we'll be in touch with you before the next meeting to hear how it's going, as well as other property members. We have a couple more things. Alicia, let me know when you have your video up and ready. And then we have Indian Creek Drive, the bike lane. We met with Assistant City Manager David Martinez and with Commissioner Fernandez. And when we were discussing the bike lane on Indian Creek Drive, we had noted that, yes, according to the Green Book of Florida Department of Transportation, which is kind of the guide that tells them this is what they can and can't do, Indian Creek Drive really would not qualify to have a painted green lane because it's a state road and there's no intersections or there's no there's no conflicts because it's all against the seawall side, right? The west side of Indian Creek Drive going south. And so we feel it's still a life safety hazard to have a windy road that you're going down that is not painted. And the city has been so generous to say that they'll maintain it. And so we are engaging our state legislative offices. We are going through the process to advocate to the state for an exception. We want to see this be an asset that is of meaning to not only MidBeach, but our entire bicycle network and the entire Miami Beach. It's been unfair how neglected Indian Creek Drive and mishandled it's been over this last decade. And we're hoping that we're going to get out of this better. But the Indian Creek Drive walking path is not far from that. I mean, how many hundreds of hours have we spent on this project discussing it from design to implementation? And from day one, we said the walking path has to be continuous. If not, you're going to create nodes and do things, then design in a way that's going to be built for the type of activities that we don't promote here in Miami Beach. And so now we're faced with the challenge, but I know that the city is already working on it to figure out how do we extend the seawall or how do we create walking paths that will be continuous. And that shows some pictures of our executive board and members. You can go to our website and learn about walkthroughs from 2024, probably back to 2019, 2018. This project has been around for 6-7 years, and we've been working. We have videos that show what our vision is and what an opportunity this would be to really enhance this asset in our community. The other video that I wanted Alicia to show our MBNA's proposal and platform. See, I mean, MBNA, we're so lucky with all the members and all their technical expertise of how many amazing details, and we always rely on the city's technical team to put it all together, but we really do want to be clear on what our vision is. There you see obviously the Jersey barriers that we have never been a fan of. We can't believe there's Jersey barriers. We didn't even get like Dade Boulevard, nice low with a little railing. I mean, we got these massive concretes and painting them, doing something to beautify them. Then I think there were some nature solutions that then got cut back, and that goes back and forth as well. But we'll discuss those things in a future meeting. Alicia is also showcasing now on the screen some stools, concrete garden stools that we would like to see throughout some of the walkway area, and then some that have been also installed. It really does have a rich history, so feel free to reach out, check it out, and ask us any questions. There's a working group that focuses on this project, and you're welcome to join it. Sargassum removal effectiveness. And so Alicia has a video she's going to show. But as we were talking about the boat show earlier today, we mentioned bridge openings. Please note that those bridge openings for the boat show will be managed as promised. From 10 to 2 is unloading and coming in, and the disruptions of the bridge will be on non-peak hours, and they won't be late in the evening. So Dr. Corrales, thank you so much for that question in the chat. This chats are also saved and included in our minutes.
Anna Marie, if I may, very briefly. So will the city be monitoring, these hours where the boats will be coming down Indian Creek to make sure they stay on schedule? Because otherwise, any boat that shows up at the bridge, it'll trigger a automatic opening, basically. No.
Dr. Corrales, it's inevitable. It's inevitable that the boats will come in.
One second.
1 week.
The boats are coming in at the regular hours that any boat's allowed to come in. So they won't be triggering anything because it won't be off hours. It will
But because there's so many, will it be a caravan of boats, one after the other, causing the bridge to be open for an inordinate amount of time?
So from our understanding, and I do have the city here, I am not a city representative. So we'll have the city communications office, but from what we've spoken with them directly and in the meetings that we've been present at, they are planning to have small groups of boats being able to go through quickly through Indian Creek from 10 to 2.
So we will the community will be informed, of course, Kevin, that's going to be your outreach, when exactly the caravan will begin and when it'll end. Yes, there will probably be a 1 hour delay, but everybody will know in advance to take the 63rd Street or the 41st Street bridge. We did address that with them. We've been going through every single detail with them, and they are very much willing to work with us. Of course, Commissioner Suarez, he's not on this meeting now, but he's in charge of that and to make sure that this works correctly.
I'm actually on still.
Oh,
good.
David, there we are.
Commissioner Suarez, I'm glad you're listening to this.
Go ahead, Commissioner. You want to say a few words on this? You can unmute.
What was it?
On the boat show. The
Oh yeah.
How long
one of the things that I told them from the very beginning when they came to me, I said we have to have almost no impact on traffic. And, I said, look, if we're going to be building docks, the floating docks, you should build it from the water side. It shouldn't be built from the land side. And if we build it from the water side, that doesn't take any sort of impact on traffic. And the loading in and loading out should only happen well after rush hour. So figure 7 p.m. to sometime early in the morning. With as little noise as possible. In fact, the only residential buildings that would be impacted would be the Blue and Green Diamond. Everything else are hotels. And
still important.
Okay, of course. But that being said, there's my goal is no lane closures and everything is built from the water. They would have to do the bridge timings, or they would do it during when the bridges do open, so that there's no impact or additional bridge openings.
Commissioner Suarez, if I may interject, is it possible also to in some way mute the bells and the horns and everything that goes on with the bridge opening if it's going to be open for a prolonged period of time?
So the way I think they have proposed it is they would go through the normal the normal bridge schedule, and I believe it's the bridge that actually has the loud horns, I think during the day. We know we've been discussing with Coast Guard if we can kind of somehow mute that. But the boats themselves will not be making any noise.
The bridge, you're gonna try to see, you're gonna speak to the admirals to see if they can at least.
That's a separate thing.
separate topic.
And I believe Commissioner Bott might be working on that. I'm
Yes.
not sure. Yeah, she'd be more than happy to speak to that. But back to the boat show. The last show that we had, I believe, was in 2018. It stretched a mile long. They have reduced it to half a mile. And they had a load in and load out period of, I think 21 days. Now it's down to 7. And so I told them, like, look, if you want to get buy-in from not only my colleagues, but the neighborhood associations and the residents, there really has to be no impact to traffic. And so that's what they're working on now. And I'm hoping to have something to present to, my colleagues and the neighborhood, to that everyone can be happy, because I do think it is a premier event. And to be able to walk on some of the larger boats in the boat show, I think residents would love that. I'm going to be pushing for a resident free pass. So if you're a resident, you should have free tickets to enjoy the show. And it really is kind of like what I campaign on, and like raising the standard of living in Miami Beach, and the boat show is one of those things. And if we can enhance that, that'd be great.
Commissioner Suarez, don't get
sorry.
me wrong. I'm not suggesting
Thank you,
that
Dr. Corrales.
it's
Thank
a
you.
wonderful event. I'm just saying that if they can keep the noise down, that would be wonderful.
Thank
Thank you
Of
for your
course.
Commissioner, just wanted you to know that today the Blue and Green Diamond approved it, and we're working on a resolution or a paper actually
Thank
with
you,
all the things, and we're going to move forward as far as on our end. So thank you for putting us in touch with them.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for going to more details on the boat show. So our reforestation of the Beachwalk has been quite a discussion, and not only because some folks feel that the sea grapes should be done, but they should be maintained properly. Others feel that there shouldn't be large trees. Others feel that there should be more diversification. Others feel that it shouldn't be, there shouldn't be such density or the type of shade that's provided. And so this item is a quite expansive item. And I know there were so many board members, Alicia, as the chair of the Beachwalk committee, I'd like for you to help facilitate this this item. Kevin, I believe there's somebody from the city that's also presenting on this, but and is Randy or Esteban or others that have been so actively engaged on this item? Alicia, I don't know if you'd like for one of them to speak, but we have about 10 to 15 minutes. I'd also like our members, if you have any questions about reforestation, please place them in the chat so that we can address them.
So let me just real quick before we turn it over to them. We got this and we started studying it, and Randy has been instrumental because he's a professional in the area of landscaping, and we studied the plants. Esteban also helped. We did a lot of work to create this feedback that's posted on our website under the Beachwalk tab. And basically, I think the city heard us, and as far as we know, they stopped the project to get our input as far as what kind of trees and the ones that we support and that we don't support, and we appreciate that. So we have videos. I'm not going to go into it now or show them to you, but how 2 years ago, this is a very interesting one that's on here for those commissioners that are on and want to see it. Esteban took this video on June 2022. Of the plantings that took place on the Beachwalk from 79 to 87. And then he took it again 2 years later, and they are the same. I'm not going to click on the video, but the growth is minimal and there is minimal shade on these trees exactly 2 years later. So there's a lot of evidence of why we're supporting this and what our positions are. So we want to get an update today of where we are with this plan, please.
Great. So I think Amy Knowles, our Chief Resiliency Officer and also our Director of Environmental Sustainability, she's joining us today. And Amy, actually, I'll turn it over to you so you could walk us through. And I'm not sure if you would like to present. Amy?
Yes, and thank you very much. I'm excited to look through that information. It looks like you've done a lot of great research and a lot of time into that. I'd like to be able to share my screen if possible. It does say disabled screen sharing.
I think I have it on mine if you.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Kevin. Let's bring it up.
Should also have the possibility.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I will keep this to the point as possible so that we can have time for your questions. And thanks again for the opportunity. So just real quick, the project itself, next slide, Kevin, is really to enhance the beach walk. This is supposed to be a benefit for the community and those that use the beach walk the most. The project is funded through a grant and through the general obligation bond. It's a U.S. Forest Service grant that we did obtain. And we know that we do have a goal to increase our city's tree canopy from 17 to 22%. And this would really help that as well for overall cooling as much as possible for the city. So we're looking for shade and comfort. We're looking for heat mitigation. We're looking to enhance the coastal hammock zone on the west side of the dunes and increase the biodiversity and improve our tree equity score. A little bit on the timeline, it's my understanding that this project started back in 2021, where it started to be discussed with the General Obligation Bond Committee. There was resident feedback that really highlighted a need for more shade along the beach walk. I think as the beach walk was being finalized and finished and all these exciting projects, the more and more people were out there, the more need for shade that was heard. And so that started to be discussed, and outreach strategies for the beach walk was discussed in terms of having more trees. Funding planting initiatives were discussed as well. The city applied for a grant application to plant these trees along the beach walk back in June of last year. That application was approved by our city commission, and a few months later, we were notified of $1 million grant award for those trees. At that time, the urban forester started to work on a proposed tree map, which hopefully you all have seen, and I know you have, because we wanted people to be able to see proposed areas for the trees, and also began the procurement process. It took all through the winter to finish, that tree map, to go ahead and finalize the procurement documents. And then the actual procurement was approved by the City Commission in July of this year. So it took about a year to go through that process. And again, the project is about $1 million. On the next slide, hopefully you'll see that right away we sent out a lot of information. We sent 16,000 postcards to those that live along the beach walk to get their attention. We have a QR code that links to the project page, as well as a map, so that we could raise attention. But I want to talk a little bit about how these trees tie into the coastal dune system. There's a cross section of the dune system in front of you here, and we're specifically focusing on the coastal hammock zone, which is predominantly an evergreen hardwood type trees that grow on stabilized coastal dunes at varying distances from the shore. So we're really focusing on the western edge of the dune system. Incredibly important. I don't have to tell anyone here, but our dune system and beaches has about $20 million a year in annual protection costs that's been identified by the Army Corps of Engineers. So incredibly important to continue to do this. On the next slide, again, no surprise to anybody here, but we've come a really, really long way with our beaches and dunes on Miami Beach. Back in the 70s, you can see those pictures where there was incredible erosion and the beach was really right near those buildings. Over time, the Army Corps and the state have worked closely with the city. In the 70s and 80s, they actually built a levee that actually wore down and washed away, and they came back and built one that was vegetated. And that's really important because that's what holds that sand in and allows it to grow over time. In 2016, the city did adopt a dune management plan, which is important. That was accepted by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And we as a city, have the authority and ability to maintain that dune system. Today, we're really focusing on increasing budgetary funding for that system. There's been a lot of restoration and maintenance happening, because we know it's really, really one of our biggest line of defenses for storms to build our resilience. Slide. And if anyone needs a reminder, a comparison of then and today. And so we've come again really, really far. And so the tree, kind of that next step, more developing that forward-looking. Now, the next slide highlights some of the particular key points we wanted to really make here. The tree planting was carefully selected. Miami Beach is very unique. It is hard to compare us to other beaches. Another beach that is dense, that is urbanized, that is also coastal. And, you know, we also have things like sea level rise. We have extreme heat. It's really hot here. So all of this is important. In terms of view shed considerations, the urban forester had a very specific approach to how they selected the trees. He was looking for open spaces that had enough room to plant, places where there was already perhaps a little bit of shade, perhaps on the west side of the beach walk, so that you're not obstructing view shed. The intent was for the trees not to be a screen and to really inhibit views, but to provide dappled shade to kind of grow up and grow over the beach walk in some areas, and to provide, you know, some relief for users, but not intended to be a full screen or a hedge in any way. The trees as well are, even though they're medium to large size trees in ideal planting environments on Miami Beach, they don't grow as high. This is a very harsh environment for them to live in. And so we're expecting, you know, 20 to 25 feet, perhaps, depending on the type of species. And then finally, it is really important for aesthetic and biodiversity in our local wildlife. Next slide. Now, the planting palette that you have received and is on our website is the recommendations that are provided by the state of Florida Department of Environmental Protection. These are the species that they recommend for dune plantings. And we also utilize the Institute of Regional Conservation for Coastal Hammock Ecosystems. So the tree species that have been selected are coming from the trusted sources that arborists and utilize in order to select the right tree that's going to do the best it can within this environment. In terms of installation and maintenance, it's important to note that once the project starts, that an MOT is required for the tree plantings, that it has to be done very carefully and very safely. The contractor is required to water for 1 to 2 years, beginning daily, and then tapering off throughout the year to establish the tree. The trees are warranted and they must survive within that first year, and we may add an extended warranty option as well. Green space will maintain the tree clearance like they do now to make sure that the vegetation is not going into the beach walk. And then the trees will become part of the annual pruning contract that is handled by Green Space, and there will be regular monitoring by. In terms of next steps, we do have community feedback through September. We have extended that feedback, that period. As you said, Anna Marie, there's been a lot of feedback about that. We will be holding individual meetings with properties based on requests. There's a lot of questions. People are really interested in these trees. And there is an approximate 10-week planting schedule once we do get started. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I tried to hit the items that Kevin had shared with me in advance.
Thank you so much, Amy. And you are correct in that we received a lot of communication, but I think there's a comment in the chat from somebody else. I think, again, this was just something that was kind of sprung on us. They didn't feel like they knew this was coming until it was already out. And so they had a hard time kind of coordinating and having this opportunity. So that's why we wanted to make it a feature item for today. This isn't something I'm facilitating, but it's something that I know others, Alicia and others would like to facilitate. But thank you.
Maybe Randy can provide some input. Randy? Unmute yourself. You're muted.
I apologize. I know Esteban has done a lot of work going up and down the walkway to look at the trees. I think our concern, there's a couple concerns that, of course, the adjacent neighboring properties are concerned about view sheds and view visibility out to the water, out to the beach. And I have supported the idea that this is an extremely harsh environment for most plant material, and therefore it won't grow. When you see a tree that grows to 40 feet, they will never reach that height along the beach. And I've informed the association that many of the heights that are designated for these in a normal sheltered protected area are very different than what you'll see on the beach. Totally agree with you 100%. I think our concern is the maintenance of the trees and their longevity, and that there are trees that have been planted that have never survived along there because the condition is so hostile. And even if it is a native tree and it's for that condition, if it isn't properly taken care of, or if there's a wind canal through the buildings, you get extreme winds coming off the water that are funneled. So I think we just want to make sure that the trees that are being planted will survive and do well. And there's appearance that, from what Esteban has discovered, looking at trees planted many years ago, and many of them are dead, is that a lot of them, some of the species don't survive in this certain condition. And every beach is different. We know that. We do different beaches, and we've planted seed grapes on beaches. Not one single seed grape survived because of the condition at that beach. So, you know, as seed grapes are pretty, but you can see here from the pictures, there's dead trees. I think it's really important that whoever's doing the planting plan make sure they know that the species that have been planted before have done well, and where they've done well, make sure that we're respecting that, because that's the perfect indicator as to their longevity and how well they'll survive. But I think there's neighboring concerns about visibility. I think the plan does have a distribution of the trees. Some seem to be more clustered together. Like there was one property that had 40 trees. The next property over had like 1 or 2. I'm not quite sure we understood the spacing of the trees. Sometimes there seems to be a lot of density of them, and then there's very little density, and there is nothing existing. It's not like they were not planted because the existing trees were already facilitating the shade or whatever. So some of the planting spacing seemed irregular, and probably should be more irregular, and that there be groupings of tree, then openings and groupings, more like a natural setting would be created. And like you say, you're not trying to create a hedge, which I applaud, because I don't think anybody wants a hedge along the dune. Certainly people living along there, but I think that's about, I don't know if Esteban, you have anything else you want to add?
How was it determined where you're going to put the trees? How is that determined? Like some areas, like what Randy was saying?
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. So our urban forester walked all 7 miles of the beach walk. As I said, it took many months and carefully selected areas. There are areas where there aren't trees to be planted, and that's because sometimes there's going to be a dune restoration coming. So for example, from about 62nd Street up to 75th Street, we got a pretty large Resilient Florida grant to do a dune restoration. So in those areas, because we know they're targeted, we don't want to be putting trees in because we don't want to cause, you know, any issue.
Okay.
So
yes,
that's some of the feedback, and we can definitely answer any of those questions. You know, I agree with you, Randy, that we put out this proposed tree planting map to get people's feedback, and it's doing that. And I'm so glad you have this to react to. So we have the ability to adjust trees, you know, within a property. We have the ability to, we want to make sure people love this and that these trees end up, you know, as a great amenity. So I think that that's something we can work with property owners on.
I have some question. I am a practical person, not theoretical about trees. I walk the beach walk every day. And then I'm gonna say something. 2 years ago, from 79 to 87, was a test for a tree. And more of the trees didn't work properly. And then they choose again the same tree to put it in this reforestation project. This is one thing. Second thing is, if you walk along the existing beach walk, you're gonna see the correct tree that is working perfectly in certain areas. You can see in our wayside. The first tree that is perfect for our area is the sea grape. The only shape that we have, the little that we have, is provided by this tree. The second other is the buttonwood silver that survive and looks good. And also in other places, like you see in the pictures, you see the sea grape supply a nice view through and also provide shade. This is a practical issue. If the guys go along the beach walk and choose the correct tree, the one that you put in the list, for example, the gumbo limbo, didn't work in our area, didn't work. We have examples, and with the wind, lose all the leaf in a few hours, and it's not work. And they planning to put a 108 gimbal. You see there in the picture. It's only a practical issue. Walk around, put the boat and on the ground and walking back and forth, and you're gonna see the best tree for our beach walk. This is not theoretical, it's practical. You can see simple by walking along the beach walk and enjoy what is the best tree for our area. That's it.
I mean, I want to thank you for that. I was recently looking at the trees in North Beach. I understand that those specific gumbo limbos did suffer through storm events, but we do note that our dune system is very sea grape heavy, and it is important to have a diverse planting palette, you know, for that coastal hammock. So we want to try to diversify. I wasn't personally involved in that planting specifically in North Beach. I think we probably did learn a lot from that. But, you know, we will have a new urban forester coming on board soon. Yeah, I am going to ask him about the selection of those specific gumbo limbos. We don't want to put in trees that are going to fail. We don't want to experiment. But we have learned a lot in other places which trees can do well. So your point is well taken, you know, and thank you for that.
We really appreciate if you could reach the members and meet with people and do a full outreach on this. There's a lot of concern, a lot of very frightened people that they're going to block their views, their $1 million views.
We're also hearing from people that they want it fast tracked, right? So we're hearing a little bit of both.
We love the shade idea, but let's do let's do it right. Let's do it right.
They want it fast tracked, that the shade is important. So I'm not sure how we can manage that. What would
put the right trees? And Rand is the perfect person.
I want to add something else. Through these years, we see many trees that supply nice shade, especially sea grape, was mutilated by the contractor, and they cut the tree, never grow again. And we find with the city many times, and now I think they understand that it's not a good thing.
And Esteban, if I may interrupt just because of time, but what we're talking about is, Amy, the time that they mutilated the sea grapes and the just trimming of these trees, and that we think that that's gotten a little bit better, but we wanted to ensure that these contractors that you're using have also already gone through that training and that they feel comfortable not, or what is your position on that? I think that it was kind of going back and forth. Somebody had told us it was necessary, et cetera.
Well, I can tell you that the trimming and vegetation work that my team has done, there are very specific requirements that is outlaid in the Dune Master Management Plan. And it very specifically talks about how when a sea grape is a tree, it needs to be lifted in such a way that the crown is maintained, but also for septed reasons, our police department wants to be able to see through that a little bit. They want to be able to make sure that there aren't homeless people in there. So we're trying to do that balance between keeping that tree healthy and pruned and not keeping it like hidden.
So
And then
South Point-
also, so it is a little bit of a balance, but I will say my team, and I have Samantha Tiffany on, she oversees them. They are in the field at least every other day, checking on those contractors, because it's very sensitive work and we have the authority from the state to maintain these dunes properly. So we're very careful with those permit requirements and what is allowable by the state.
Thank you. We do see a difference in our trees compared to the ones in South Point or the ones in South Beach. We always feel that theirs are better trimmed and better maintained than the ones in our dunes. That the ones in our dunes suffer more mutilation, as they call it. But it's good to hear that your staff is out there and working. I know we've gone over 10 minutes.
I know we have. You want to share that video real quick on the Sargassum, Anna Marie?
Oh, that's the contractor video. Sure, we could show it. I think it was concerns that we're using, and I don't know if Danny Reyes, you're still here with us. This is really also for you. Just trying to show like efficiency of, you know, the money that we're putting in for sargassum removal or shredding or pickup or however they call it. That sometimes there's not much there or nothing there, and yet we're just kind of go up and down tractors, and we see this a lot of many days. And so trying to figure out how we can make these contracts more flexible to be more effective in their removal, and also to be able to count on them when we do have emergency dumps or just, you know, beds of seaweed coming ashore, and what, you know, how will we react and what will our city do? So this just shows, it kind of looks like a playground for tractors, and it goes along our beaches, and we all take pictures and make jokes about this, but it really is kind of a sad use of taxpayer money. So for the county and the city that are engaged in this, is something that we wanted to bring up and mention.
We haven't put it on the website because it's a little embarrassing.
Yeah, actually there are items like this one, bollards, etc., that MBNA does not put on their website, because I have a hard time until, you know, so hopefully we'll come up with something before we have to go that route. I want to thank everybody for extending your night and your time with us today. 11 minutes over is is unusual. It's uncharacteristic of MBNA. I apologize. My facilitation skills were not overly tight today. And I did actually end up covering every single item that's in our newsletter and our agenda. So we did double the work. And so hopefully it was worth your time. And if you have any questions or want to stay on, this meeting has adjourned. I'll stop the recording and look forward to seeing you all on the first Wednesday of October.